Hi, everyone. Today we've got a launch of a book that is the second book that this beautiful author has done with us. So, welcome today to the book launch of your second book. Welcome, Julide.
Thank you so much for having me, Suze. It's an absolute pleasure.
So, today we're going to be launching the Sunnah-Tarian. Great name. And I love that. So, the Sunnah-Tarian, rediscovering the perfect path to wholesome eating. There's so much already in this book that's really opened my eyes to just how much we overcomplicate, I think, the food and the eating and the diets and everything else. So I'd
Sure.
really love to, first of all, ask you, you've said the Sunnah-Tarian way is not a diet. Can you talk more about this approach and how your take on this and how people can understand a little bit about what is, the Sunnah-Tarian?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Absolutely, Susan, I can. So when I say the Sunnah-Tarian is a return, what I mean is from an Islamic lens, it's a return to the Arabic term is fitra. It's a return to temperament. So what is already within you, what you already know, what is already logical and common sense. So a return to the way the body was designed to live, to eat, and to relate to the world. So the Sunnah-Tarian way is not about restriction or trends. It's just about remembering how you were created and how your body already remembers what food is supposed to be doing for you. So it returns us to food that is alive, that's seasonal, that's meaningful, that's organic. So it returns us to eating with awareness and not distraction. It returns us to a rhythm of life where nourishment isn't just about something that's physical, but it's also emotional and spiritual. And we can't deny that we're in this three-dimensional body, but there's a spiritual reality of our three-dimensional body. And in order for us to, I suppose, experience that nirvana, so to speak, then our body and our physical health has to be aligned so that we can reach that spiritual wellness and wholeness too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it's the bodies that we've been given that we've always had. And yet, things have changed and it really is bringing us back to that,
Mhm.
very beginning. One of the main focuses of the Sunnah-Tarian is the twin commands of the Halal. And if you can
You can
elaborate
say it. Say
on
it.
that,
Tayyib.
tayyib.
Yeah, you did it.
There you
You did
go.
it. Beautiful.
Beautiful. I love that. But most are familiar with the halal, but
Mhm.
what is
Absolutely.
what is the tayyib and
Tayyib.
how
Yeah,
does it change the way that we look at modern food systems?
absolutely. I appreciate that question actually. So halal answers the question, is it permissible from an Islamic lens, right? Is it permissible? Tayyib answers the question, is it good? Is it wholesome? Is it organic? Is it nutritious? And so tayyib means something that is pure, clean, organic, nourishing in its truest sense. So it's not about the ingredient only, it's about the entire journey of that food. So, how was it grown? How was the animal treated? What food was it exposed to? Did it eat GMO corn? Or was it exposed to its regular diet like grass? How was the food processed? And what effect will that food have on the body? So it means it's not just about following certain commands on how it should be slaughtered, but also about the entire journey of the food. So, and interestingly, the nuance is a food can be technically halal because you've cut through the jugular vein or you've faced Mecca or you've said the recitation that you need to, but it may still not be tayyib because that chicken may have been in a cage fed non-organic GMO crop. It may be obsolete from exposure to sunlight, for example. And on the contrary, the nuance is it could be organic food, it could be an organic chicken, but it hasn't been slaughtered the halal way. So, sometimes technically things are halal and not tayyib, but they're tayyib, but they're not halal. So, I suppose this is where the shift becomes pretty profound, right? When you begin to prioritize the concept of tayyib, that wholesomeness, you start to see the cracks in the modern food system. Ultra processed foods, the chemical exposure, the depletion, unfortunately, of our soils, and stressed animals. You realize the permissibility alone is not enough for a body that is meant to thrive and not just survive. So I suppose tayyib really brings ethics and quality and consciousness back into the conversation, and it makes you ask deeper questions. And once you see it, I suppose you can't unsee it anymore. So they go hand in hand like a body and a spirit.
Yeah, no, I really love that. It's like it's that missing piece that you might be, doing it the halal way and think that that's the best, but unless you're combining the two, you're really not getting that, full, like you said, nutritional value, but also that spiritual and just, the way that we're putting things into our body that we want to be more aware of to
Absolutely.
understand that. I love that.
Absolutely.
You've bridged, the ancient traditions essentially with the modern nutritional systems or science throughout the book. What was the most surprising overlap you discovered while researching the Prophet's diet and the way of the living? Is it a bit of what we've just spoken about, but what else?
Absolutely. I think what surprised me the most was how aligned the prophetic way already is with what modern science is only now kind of beginning to understand. So things like eating in moderation rather than constantly snacking, which was massively pushed on us. Things like eating what is wholesome rather than sugar-free, low fat, which we realize we need fat to absorb vitamins in dairy produce, for example. Spacing meals, only eating when there's a hunger signal, valuing whole foods, supporting your digestive system, eating with awareness, eating slowly, even the emphasis on gut health through foods like fermented dairy and vinegar. They're now being and have been actually validated through research on metabolism, inflammation, and the microbiome. So, beyond that, though, the biggest overlap for me was the nervous system because in my first book, One Third of Your Stomach, I spoke a lot about your relationship with food and how that grounds you or scaffolds you in the type of person you are going to be, in how biochemically that food affects your mental health, right? So the Prophet, peace be upon him, he ate in a state of calm. He ate in a state of presence and gratitude. So today we know that digestion is profoundly affected by our mental state. So you can't digest properly in a state of stress. So it makes sense that you should not be eating in front of the TV. But we have a culture that encourages popcorn when you're watching a movie, or, mothers are always distracting their children just so they eat what's on their plate with an iPad in front of them, right? So you can't absorb properly in distraction because your body needs to know that it's time to eat. And so there needs to be alignment with the brain and the body to kind of go, all right, now I need to activate my digestive processes. I need to increase saliva. I need to increase digestive acids. So what was taught as adab, which means etiquette in Arabic, and spirituality is also therefore deeply physiological. So I suppose in a nutshell, it really reminded me that revelation didn't really need modern science, with due respect, to be valid. But when the two align together, it deepens our understanding and our appreciation, I would say.
Yeah, that's absolutely profound because as we spoke earlier, the the great first book that you mentioned, One Third of Your Stomach, the food lifestyle philosophy that draws you closer to God, and like you just spoke about, just reconnects to what, I suppose what modern day science and that is sort of bringing us back to what we need to know from so many elements, not just what we eat, how we eat. It's
Why we eat, how much.
why we eat, how
Yeah,
much, and why
absolutely.
there's so much health problems that are occurring. A lot of what you talk about is these are solutions of being aware that can help with our digestive system and everything else. And I think in a modern world, we need to come back and to the roots of all of this and really understand it. How does we talked about, the time, how we eat, what we eat, just touch a little bit on how that impacts like our spiritual connection.
Absolutely. I think that eating is probably obviously one of the most repeated acts in our lives, because most of us are unfortunately in a constant state of eating. And anything, I suppose, that's repeated has the potential to either distance us from God or to bring us closer. So we can use how we eat as a form of worship in the spiritual belief that I have. So when you eat with heedlessness, you eat in front of the TV, you eat rushing, scrolling, over consuming, you're reinforcing this state of disconnection, Susan, and this state of lack of presence. And the job is to stop before excess, which is what inspired my first book, One Third of Your Stomach, which is a sunnah, it's a prophetic practice. And it's to train your sense of ego because food really is for the physical body. It's not necessarily for the spiritual body, but it's necessitated because the spirit is within the physical body, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. And we will have some links below for people to be able to actually buy both books if you would like to read One Third of Your Stomach and then go to the Sunnah-Tarian as well. The question that I've got to ask, I'd love you to combine the two in that, this book is not just for one religion. This is for any religion. And I think that's really important that we can learn so much. I know for me, reading through the book, I learned so much. So even if you don't say,
follow the Islamic practice. Yeah,
follow,
Susan, thank you so much. You've just raised such a beautiful topic because whilst I always refer to our God and our spiritual practices and the Muslim way of doing things, the reality is the idea is to move from consumption to conscious purpose, right? And you don't need to be a Muslim to do that. You can be an atheist, you can be a Jew, you can be a Christian. And I am very confident that the four holy religions, and even not being a part of a religion, just being aligned with your temperament, which is what we touched base on before, is enough. So there's something very subtle when food is earned, prepared, and consumed with awareness of a larger purpose, of a creator, of a power beyond us. It carries a different quality. It affects our heart, not just our body. And this is why, for us, the scholars spoke about the link between what you consume and your ability to feel closer to God. It's not abstract, it's lived. And that can be an experience you have regardless of your religious background. And so, for readers that are not Muslim, it's more about understanding the spiritual reality of kind of going, you can eat meat if you want to, you don't have to be a vegetarian. But if you are, at least acknowledge that when that piece of meat is in front of you, that first and foremost, you show gratitude to whoever, even that piece of meat. I show gratitude to this lamb whose life was sacrificed so that it becomes a part of my DNA and it serves the rest of its energetic realm as part of my DNA. So, if anything, I've elevated it from I suppose, animal that has no consciousness but does things out of instinct to now becoming a part of my DNA. But that mindfulness is a part for everyone. It's not just for the Muslim. For you to kind of go, I'm grateful that this organic broccoli grew full term under beautiful soils. A beautiful farmer looked after it, prayed on it, smiled. The beautiful sun was a part of its growth process. The water that fertilized it or the water that hydrated it was pure and filtered. Like all of that can be a part of anyone's genre. You don't have to be a Muslim for it to be a part of yours.
yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think that when we do stop and have that gratitude, it also allows us to stop. I think in today's culture, we're just shoving food in our
There's no
mouth.
presence. Yeah, there's no presence. There's no consciousness. And then you wonder, why am I always tired? Because you overeat and your body during the night, for example, is spending so much energy breaking down everything you've unnecessarily consumed, as opposed to investing that energy in healing your body during the night. So yeah, absolutely. This book is for everyone. It is just inspired by the Islamic, I suppose, a doctrine of living, the same way that I read parenting books that are written by, Catholic Christian psychologists that are very connected to God and, very conservative in their views. And I take from that because I'm like, well, I agree with A, B, and C. This aligns with me as just a good human being. I don't have to be a follower of Christianity to acknowledge that what it's saying to me aligns with what I believe in too. Like it doesn't conflict. So as long as the information doesn't conflict, and it won't, because it's temperamental. We're all human beings. We all have a certain way in the biology and the spirituality of our body manifesting, regardless of the, I suppose, purpose of life we've chosen, regardless of the religion we've chosen, if we've chosen a religion to follow it all. We may be completely atheist, but still be quite aligned with the spiritual reality, albeit unknown to us. Is there a bigger power? And if there is, who is it? It's not really a religious book. It's not, the goal is not to convert you to Islam. It's really a book to bring awareness to spirituality, which is a part of everyone's religion and is a part of a lot of people, whether they follow a religion or not.
Yeah, absolutely love that. So one third of your stomach, and of course the Sunnah-Tarian, two amazing books that are open to everyone that wants to be more conscious, and there's so much that you can learn in there. So the link will be below. Like I said, grab yourself one copy, grab yourself one of each, and learn so much from you. We thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise so that people can really make change in their health, and the way they feel. And it really is about that. It's that quality of life that we get when we're educated and informed on ways that we can help ourselves. So thank you
Absolutely
so much.
agree. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for giving me such an wholesome, unbiased platform to share my views and allow me to feel relatively safe in expressing what aligns with me at this point in my life. So thank you so much, Susan, and thank you to Dean Publishers. Really appreciate your time and energy and all your assistance in putting both the books together, which has been a beautiful lesson and a beautiful experience for me also. Couldn't have done it without you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So grab your copy, link below, and yeah, reach out and let us know what changes you've made from all this information that you can learn. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.